Are we recording?
Perfect. You're good. We just started.
I just did it. Hey, what's up, Ruben?
Hey, what's up, Ryan? How's it going?
How's it going?
It's going good. We're here today to talk about Haven.
Now, let us talk about Haven. You did
Well,
good. So, this is like
This is the
this,
intro
yeah,
for the
when
game.
you first start the game up, this is what plays. I'd say this was pretty surprising because I just wasn't expecting it, because it goes on for like
A good like 2-3
yeah,
minutes.
I'd say 2-3 minutes is a good.
And I think it does. I think it's a good opening in a way. It's cementing that this is what the story is all going to be about. These two characters and their relationship with each other and their adventure through this world that they are now on.
Yes, I agree.
And obviously it kind of does these dramatic little portraits to show that there's something in depth with these characters, that there's something that we're going to learn about these characters, like they're some sort of internal struggle or something, as well as an outward struggle.
I appreciate you trying to go like full hard. I gotta describe every moment of it. No, I mean, like, honestly, I think this is just their excuse to have an artistic intro.
Sure.
That's different from a lot of others. You don't really start a game anymore, and there's
Have something like this going on.
there's not really like a traditional intro or anything like that anymore. Especially one that lasts this long. Especially one that seems watercolor.
Yeah.
Whether it's actual watercolor or like digital watercolor, I don't know. But yeah, that leads us into our title screen, which then actually I realized this isn't the title screen.
Right. This is just the intro for
Yeah, because this is still part
the
of the intro
game.
video.
The title screen itself is
this.
them
Yeah,
playing, which sometimes it does change depending on where you're at in the
I
story.
haven't seen it change yet. So I'm gonna load.
You have two different saves.
Well, yes and no. Yes, I have two different saves. You can copy a save, so I copied a save from a certain point in the game. This is my most recent one. I'm wondering, because that's probably gonna auto save over my stuff. Let me just be. Oh, I'm stupid. I didn't need that. It's okay. That's all right. I realized I could just copy this save and I'd be okay. So don't pay attention to what's happening now. At the title screen. Okay.
See, it does change.
I hadn't seen that.
Depending on what you interact with in the game, what you unlock, so you find this.
Spoilers, shut up. Anywho. So, let me see.
You just copied one, so.
Right, this is the current save. This is my prior save.
Yeah.
Like an hour and a half before or something like that.
Wow.
Okay, so
not that
far
far forward. Yeah, it's a little bit, but it's not that far
Have you ever
forward.
seen such a large vid chat?
Yeah.
And so, anywho, this game has a lot of different elements to it that I feel all kind of get mashed together in a weird way. You have your two characters, K and U. K is the dude, U is the lady. They're in a relationship, and essentially their story, you learn pretty early on, is like they've escaped from someplace, which seems the society centers around like forced relationships, I guess, is like forced marriages, I guess is how you'd put it.
So from what I understand, it is like there's a council, but there's also the matchmaker,
Right.
which they pick essentially who you're
this
with.
one still works?
Right.
So it's kind of like a forced relationship.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Obviously,
These two characters obviously had a problem with it because they met each other and they fell in love.
And they were not chosen for.
They were not chosen for one
They
another.
just happened to decide that we're gonna run away and
Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet.
It's a
shit.
very Romeo and Juliet type story
Did you hear
where,
that?
like, you know,
I'm getting paranoid.
the whole world is against them, but they're gonna try to essentially fight it. So they, against the wishes of the matchmaker and everybody, they essentially left their worlds.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't go in too much more detail just because I don't want to give away like the entire beginning of the game. But essentially, they
well, it's kind of like on there.
right. It's pretty early on.
Yeah.
This is obviously further on into the story. I'm not going to pay a ton of attention to it just for the sake of people figuring out the story for themselves.
Right.
But the general gameplay is going to be this: you can choose to walk.
Hungry?
Which
It is
actually
incredibly
okay.
slow.
Incredibly
You're not,
slow.
yeah, you're not meant to play the game
I
this
can feel
way.
it now.
Both of
hungry.
them will complain about being hungry for some reason. You do have a hunger meter in the upper right. You can also level up your duo here, and they also have their own HP. There is combat in this game. It is fairly RPG-like.
very turn-based.
But I mean, it's like active battle, like ATB stuff from like Final Fantasy, kind of, sort of. Which the reason I loaded this is I know that I can start some battles real quick.
Yeah, there's one. Do you
Given
have any
that
healing
there's these
stuff?
little monsters. I'll be okay. I don't think I've died yet.
This is a pretty
And
one.
I've played
Well,
pretty crappily.
I've learned that if you die, if you get beat up by one of these monsters, you don't die.
But I have died. Yeah,
You
I
just
you
return
go back
to
to like
the-
a camp or something.
You return to the nest.
So, anyways, you find these like corrupted creatures. If you sneak up on them, you can get your own, get some attacks going. There are duo attacks, so if both of
Ready
your
when you
characters
are.
attack at the same time, it's a stronger version of it.
You know what to
And
do.
so then your goal is to knock out all their HP and then pacify those
Saw
creatures.
that.
to like purify them of what is
Right.
called the rust.
And then so that one had actually kind of screwed himself over because there are certain monsters that will be weak at certain points. So like right now he's kind of defended.
Now.
He's not going to take much damage because they are essentially
So you
wanting
wanna
you
Cover me.
to shield up,
And have
wait
one
for him to
character
attack,
attack.
and then have the other character attack immediately after,
Bam.
which
Your
does a
turn.
lot of damage. And then you just pacify.
You know
And
what
that's
to do. I'm
kind of the combat.
Now
That's
shoot.
pretty much the gist of it.
Some creatures will be more affected by either blast or impact. And then once you kill your creatures, you can interact with them one way or
It's
the
gonna
other,
be
but
alright.
it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, they
from
have
my
their own
understanding.
kind of like little emotes that they do when you
like
interact.
that thing will sit down. Other things you can like pet and scratch or whatever the case may be. Anyways, so that's pretty much the combat. There's not much else to it. You can obviously use potions, things along those lines, and like buffs and things along those lines as well.
You do find essentially ingredients to create healing items as well
Right,
as items to
so-
help boost battle. So like as
Like
like
caps,
don't
you
get
can use to
squished.
heal.
yeah, those are used to heal. Apple
I got a
dews are
big
mainly
one.
like one of the food things that
Yeah,
you could
can-
cook.
You can cook, and
Which you could either
craft
cook at
healing
the
stuff.
nest, which is like their hub, or you could cook at a campsite that you can find along on like these little islets. So this game, there's multiple floating islets that are connected by like a flow line,
Right,
which is what they're
essentially
using to
Yeah, it's
float.
what we came
to
in
fly.
on. So that big old blue thing in the distance is a connection between this island and the last
Yeah,
island.
it's what they use to power their equipment as well as
It's essentially the form of energy in this universe
Yeah.
is flow, whatever. So like being able to float around and having that blue stuff coming out of your boots, that's flow. This here is a flow line that you can follow. This will just essentially fill up your flow in the upper left part of the screen. There's that little circle. It'll fill up as you kind of complete a flow line. And so some of these can be fairly long. Some of them kind of float you up in the air like this one does.
and some of them are essential to getting
like
to the next part of the
traversing.
island.
Right.
Did
Yeah.
you?
Some of them you have to use in order to like properly traverse, because obviously as you can see, that got me up on top of a platform.
Yeah.
So there are some areas you just can't get to without using a flow line.
And once you get used to it, admittedly in the beginning it's a little bit weird to get used to the controls of the
Yeah.
flying, but after you get used to it and the drifting kind of like aspect of it,
It's not hard.
it's not hard. It gets easier
long as
and
they do it
you kind of get a good flow going for it.
But I would agree with him that like my first inclination of the controls in this game were that they were shit. Because essentially I turned on camera control The game defaults to you not being able to control the camera whilst you're floating. Also,
Yeah.
they'll hold hands occasionally while you're floating.
Yeah,
It's
and
cute.
occasionally, sometimes whenever you stand still,
They'll like hug or
they'll
kiss
hug
you.
or kiss, and it'll also restore some health a little bit.
And so you can drift, which is essentially this. You just hold L and you just go and you drift either left or right. Again, like this is necessary to be able to follow flow lines, but I haven't seen this be like ultimately like, you know, the end all be all of you being able to complete things in this game efficiently. It's just a way
Right.
to turn quicker. Because you can also press back, and that's just going to make you go directly
It does
back.
like a U-turn.
And then so like
Lack of
in this
vitamins?
case, there's a lot of
At this
situations
point,
where you may just be
I think
trying
I'm
to
liking a bit
turn,
of everything.
and I've run into this situation repeatedly where you're trying to turn and like that right there.
Yeah,
I'm not holding
Trying
back
to
right
shake
now.
me?
Yeah,
This is just happening.
That's
for
happened
them.
to me several times. I'm like, okay, come on.
Because essentially what I'm doing is I'm holding camera to the right and I'm holding to the right as my movement, and that is for some reason causing the game to interpret that I want to go
Just
back.
It's very sensitive.
Yeah, and it's really annoying, and I feel like it could have been avoided, honestly.
Could have been done a little bit better.
Yeah.
I also think the combat could have been worked a little bit better, because where I'm
Yeah.
at in this story is the enemies definitely are harder, a little bit harder, and I noticed that at night different creatures come out, and I'm not sure if there's an explanation for them yet or not, but there's certain creatures that can't be found during the day. They can only be found during night.
Oh, I'm
But
hungry.
they-
Apparently that makes us slower. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you wanna
Go, go,
Eat
Kay!
up.
eat up and be
I'm
stronger.
a little fucked
Ready
right
when you
now
are.
because I
Ready.
can't really do that in combat.
Uh,
I can charge up.
you can't run away
I'm
either.
done.
Yeah, you can't run away. And so essentially you hold down the button to do certain attacks. And both
And
of
once
your
it
characters
charges
can
up.
be
Nice
charging
one.
an individual attack. So
I'll
one can be doing
consider
blast,
it.
one can be doing impact.
Poor guy didn't see it coming.
One of you
That
can be
one must
shielding,
sting.
one of you can
Careful.
be attacking.
I got your
Essentially,
back.
whatever
Sweet.
works ultimately.
He's ripe for the picking.
Harvest
A lot
time.
of these creatures will have certain states in
Let's
which
get
they're
it over
vulnerable,
with.
and
I'm
then
done.
have states where they just essentially take no damage.
Okay.
A lot of them will have states where they're charging up for attacks, like that one just did, which essentially did
Boom.
damage to both of my characters.
Coming.
I would say the combat is
Starting to
super
look pretty
hard.
tired.
Obviously, I'm getting pretty screwed here.
This one's ready.
Yep.
It's definitely a learning curve, and
Yeah.
kind of like predicting.
turn.
It's one thing that I've kind of learned is like there's, especially where I'm at in the story, I'm a little bit further
That's how we
past this. Some enemies later on, they get,
Close, back up a little bit.
they get pretty fast.
Yeah.
In their actions. Thankfully, one thing in this game is as you upgrade your relationship between these two characters, as you do more things like little certain events,
Right.
little certain side quests. Ooh, you need to go back to a camp real quick.
Oh,
You could show them the camp. Sure.
sure.
Is as you upgrade your relationship between these two characters, they get better stats, increased health, their attacks get stronger. They get faster on their charge times for certain things, and you could also use like consumables to make you charge faster as well.
There we go. Let's do this.
You could get different capsules, essentially. You could create different capsules that help you charge up your attacks faster in combat, which is really helpful.
That's really strong.
And what you do is you see the red stuff on the ground. That's what is called rust, and that's what as you collect that, you use that to essentially make the stuff to
That looks bad. You like
create your battle consumables. You need a shield.
that? Meet my boyfriend.
He's getting worn out. Sorry.
I will say
They're
that
sorry when they hit us.
if somebody goes down, you could resurrect
This
them.
one's
Yeah,
ready.
and that's why I say like I really haven't had that many issues because I'm like,
I don't like this.
But from my experiences, if they go down a certain number of times, that line to save them
Yeah,
gets
it's-
really fucking slow.
right.
Are you
So like when you
okay?
see the duo blast stuff here, the line given I'm hungrier is a lot smaller than it would be if I was less hungry.
If you were fed and rested.
Let's
but,
get it over with.
And done.
Yeah, a lot of the combat is just timing and just like being able to. One of my biggest complaints is like trying to tell which monster is attacking you because they kind of just look in the direction of which character they're going to attack, and it's
Yeah.
not super telegraphed like which one that is. But like he was mentioning, the rust in this case you want to clear from all
There's still more.
the islets or islets or whatever.
Yeah.
And like as you can see there, it says islet cleared.
Because then you could fast travel to
yeah,
them
you can fast
later
travel to
on.
this point now.
thanks to a certain
from-
creature.
Yeah, thanks to these little spots here, which you
Veggie
can bait,
Bring
and
them
that
up.
brings this creature here, which allows you to fast
I
travel.
forgot what they
between
called them.
Blurgle,
I think.
Blibble, Blurgle. And so that allows you to then at that point
Go back to
go
either
back to different
campsite or
points.
the nest.
And so I would just say we're gonna go back to the nest because that can show off what you do when you are at camp, and a lot of your interactions between your protagonists in this case are going to be taking place in the nest.
Loading screens, it kind of shows like these little like scenes and everything, or like these little drawings, paintings, whatever of the characters
it's
and
kinda chilly up
different
here.
activities.
Yeah. We should have packed you a little
Sometimes it'll
sweater.
show them arguing, sometimes it'll show them like having fun. It's just like little
Some of them.
snippets.
This game is kind of horny.
This game is horny to on main, let me tell you.
It's very these characters are in a relationship.
It doesn't say nudity for nothing on here, let me tell you on that. On the
I haven't
reviews. Although
seen-
you don't see
you don't
anything,
see
but
any.
you see more like back shots and stuff like that.
Yeah, and there's
I
a
say
lot of,
I
there's a
shouldn't
lot
use
of
back
them.
shots. That's a different term.
There's a lot of them. No,
Eat,
there's
you
a lot
hungry
of
boy.
them, there's a lot of them, like allegories to them having sex, or there's them like joking about doing the sex and all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
Anywho, you go home, you can heal up. So now, and it's kind of neat, like everything in the nest, like you can see their health bars in the back.
Yeah.
And we're like, now they're full, so it was red and yellow earlier, now it's just good. It's a lot of things you can interact with. Sometimes the shower is available to where
It's
just
at
gonna,
nighttime, so
it's just gonna play a snippet
available.
where one of them talks to the other one about
Sometimes
like,
they're
is
both in there.
Do we have a towel or whatever?
What are you looking at?
A lot of these things that are
Distance between
pink
us and the
tend to
apiary.
not really do anything. It's just,
wouldn't
but they will
expect
still
it to
talk about it.
change.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So in
And
this case,
comforting.
they'll just talk about the world and
Some
kind of stuff.
interactions do oh yeah, definitely use the garden.
Yeah, can plant some seeds in your little garden that you collect from the world.
Move over. Make room for your new friend.
So a little bit about these characters. Kay is kind of like the botanist slash biologist, and U is more so like the mechanic slash like engineer character.
Yeah, they won't let me cook because it's nighttime.
Because it's nighttime, correct? And there's different there's different like locations on these islands where you could like explore a building and you could find little things like this. He found toys of mascots from his childhood days. So now
It's like a TV show.
yeah, a TV show, and you have the option to just kind of play with them in the nest,
See?
and that kind
You
of
can
like
cook too.
adds like a
Stop
little
it.
humor to it.
I just skewered a bunch of vegetables.
Even still, it tastes
And then you'll make
great.
meals, and they'll talk about all the
None
meals,
of my
especially if it's the
doing.
first
Mhm.
time that they've had it.
But it does taste great.
And so there's, and different meals will have various. They'll either give
Well,
you experience,
what
or
is it?
they'll
Yeah.
I thought
lead to
it
them
was
having
quite
specific
obvious.
conversations about the
It's a
meal that was
present.
made. I haven't
Great,
even seen
see
this
that,
yet.
But what is
Yeah,
it?
I know what this
Hoping
scene
it's
is.
silly.
I've had this happen in my playthrough.
And so
That's just the shell. Wait.
turned it
what
into a
did you
guitar.
do?
So we found
I
this
thought
shell
it
on
had
a
a
beach
nice
somewhere, and
soundboard,
then so
so
it turns out he's
I added
now
a
turned it into a
bridge, some
guitar because she talked
strings.
about
You said you were
having had a
missing your
guitar when
guitar.
she was a kid, or whatever the case may be.
This
Mhm.
is so cool. Whew.
As you can
I
see,
was
like a
afraid
lot
you
of it is
wouldn't like
acted
it.
out in the foreground with the
joking?
drawings, and then in the
It's blooming
background they
amazing.
very
I
lightly
can't believe
kind
you
of
managed to do
animate stuff
all
in the
this right
background.
under my
Mhm.
nose.
I
Isn't
tend
it
to
too?
pay more attention to the
I did my
foreground stuff
best.
than the background stuff because there's really not a lot that goes on in actual 3D.
No,
Cling
no.
plong, cling
Ooh.
plong, bling blong.
How did you come up with this thing?
I was
It looks like
tired
a
of seeing
guitar.
this shell as a reminder of my mishap in the cave.
What
His foot
mishap?
got stuck in the
I have
shell.
no idea what you're talking about.
Mhm.
This is just the shell you turned into a guitar because you're the best lover ever, isn't it?
Yeah, and I would say the writing
Are
in
you
this
gonna play a
is
song?
good,
No
but there
way.
are some
I
points that
haven't
is
played a guitar
definitely
in years.
it's
Cheesy.
a little
Let
bit
alone a shell
cheesy or a
guitar.
little.
But it makes
little
sense
grating.
because
My
it is
skills
a
first.
romance.
But
And they're the
soon.
only two that they ever
I
talk to
promise.
because no one else is really around.
There's nobody else on this planet other than the animals and everything.
Right.
So that was the whole point as to why they escaped here. is
And then
because
there
of-
at the end, you see that bar fill up. That's
that's their relationship meter, essentially.
I just call it an experience bar. Like it's literally just experience. Once that bar fills up, you can come over here to the celebrate, and quote unquote
Yeah.
celebrate, and that levels up the two of them, which causes any of these little squares here to fill up.
Yeah.
And I imagine I can't be that far. There can't be much more to the game past where you or I are, given there just aren't many more things to unlock for these characters. And maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like that's gotta be kind of true, unless you're just gonna be maxed out. But
Which
anyways,
is fine.
nighttime you can sleep. There may be, them cuddling or whatever the case may be. But anyways, most of the time when you're in the nest and you interact with any of the things in here,
Lights
there
off?
will be some
Yeah.
conversation between
Maybe
the
the
two of
Hornets will
them
have a harder time finding us in the dark.
that is
That's not
relevant to
funny.
where you are in the story.
I wasn't trying to
So
be
there's
funny.
quite a bit of writing,
I'm
and
sorry
therefore
to be a downer, but
I'm pretty sure
I can't
everything
stop
in this
thinking
game is
about what
voice
they would
acted.
do if they caught
Yeah,
us.
everything in this game is
Hornets?
voice acted.
No,
Even like
the Hornets
the
will just. I
Hornets
meant
and
the
stuff.
apiary.
They'll split us apart.
And how will they achieve? By force? Have you ever seen anyone? We can't be the only ones.
What do you mean?
Have you ever heard about?
Oh no,
And
not
so
I
we're
never
talking about
just-
where we are in part of the story, which
I mean,
honestly I
don't
haven't
have
even
to
gotten
sweat
this
out.
conversation,
But
but I'm
I-
just going to skip
well, there's
this
no
because
reason I-
again, as part of whomever would be watching this, give you the chance.
Well, unfortunately, there's gonna be a little bit spoiled.
Well, I'm probably actually just going to stop it here in the next few minutes. I think we've pretty much gone over everything there is to go over.
The music is good. I like the
Music's
music. in
good.
this.
Yeah, each of the areas that you're in tends to have, I think, their own song or whatever the case may be. A lot of the stuff that you make here in the nest, like as an example, and craft different things here. If you have any enhancements or upgrades, you can do that there. So here I could say craft a bomb to heal. out
One
in the
thing about
field.
this crafting thing is I wish it would let us craft multiple at the same time instead of doing
One at a time.
one at a time, which
That
is
would
kind of
be-
annoying. I get why they do it, so that if you wanted to be like, oh, I wanted to create one of these and then one of these because I'm trying to save supplies, I get it.
Yeah, and like here you can.
Oh, I
make
didn't
your
even know that you
foods.
could do that.
Yeah, you can make your foods. So like as you can see, I got veggie kebabs at the bottom. It's gonna heal 80. It's gonna give 20
Okay,
experience.
now that I know I could do that in my playthrough now because I didn't even know that I could switch to
Yeah.
the helicaps and everything for food.
And so there's gonna be a different meal for every combination of what you have.
Combination.
Well, I'm listening to myself while I talk, so it's a little harder. But you can combine stuff with itself. You can
Boba salad, boba these
yeah,
nuts.
roasted apple dews. I would say, I guess, the more quote unquote complex the dish, the more it's going to give you in regards to experience. Or
Yeah, because some will heal you, but a lot of them give you like relationship points and stuff.
right.
And they have each like thing has its own little like cutscene of them
Right.
doing whatever it is.
Right. And so, anywho,
One thing to know, they're
There's-
both vegetarians.
yeah, there's like light crafting, given that, and the food creating. You
Snail-
can synthesize healing items over here. Same idea. It's pretty much the same thing. You're just combining different things to make a more potent healing item or whatever the case may be.
The game is mainly focused on exploration and story.
It's a weird thing because I'd say it's like almost like it's a dating sim mixed with you playing like knights
I would
slash
say
Sonic
it's
the
a
Hedgehog.
dating sim.
I mean,
hope you'll
what
be
the?
able to get in
I don't
touch
even know
with
what the
You
fuck
see
that
what I'm
is.
seeing?
Oh yeah, I fought that.
I'm not even looking at that because I literally in my own playthrough haven't even seen what that is. So, anyways, without going any further forward into more and more territory of the unknown, I guess like
I don't know.
finishing up final thoughts for me is just that like, yeah, this game reminds me of a lot of like a light dating sim mixed with. I don't really know what the overworld stuff is. Like to me, I call
Should
it.
we end it with a kiss, right?
No. Like I kind of figure like the way that this game plays is just weird because like there's not really a lot of other stuff. Like this is really what you do in the overworld is you just kind of float around and you have this light drifting mechanic, and then you fight stuff, and that's really the general gameplay beyond just you crafting stuff in the nest or just listening to their conversations. Oh, right. In some of those moments where they were having conversations and I had a choice between picking one of two things, there will be pretty different interactions with most of those, depending on which one you pick.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can raise their confidence, which I don't know what that means
I
or
think
what
it
it
just
involves.
so raises their confidence towards each other in the relationship
Right,
and
like
everything. It might affect some.
it's kind of vague
stats.
because it doesn't really say anything, or like
It might affect how the story ends per se.
Maybe
I'm not
maybe
sure if
secret
there
ending.
are multiple endings to this game. I feel like there might be one. Well, there might be like one or
Please, take
two
my place.
endings. And oh, you could also switch between who takes the lead,
Which is not super
floating, which is
yeah.
not super important. It's just like your preference of to who you want to like lead.
yeah, because they play exactly the same.
Yeah, they're essentially the same, or they played exactly the same. It's just more so their characters are different.
But yeah, so picking certain
Whether
things,
you like a woman in the lead or a man in the lead.
yeah. And so you can, in those conversations, you can pick certain things that may raise the character's confidence that is saying it, and I think that is just like them literally being more confident in their decisions or their actions, or raising their like, I guess, their appreciation for their relationship or their confidence in their relationship.
Yeah, and confident in their decision, because this is not in this world their decision
not
to
an
leave.
easy decision.
It's not an easy decision, and it could lead to
Very radical changes.
for not only
universe.
them, for their universe. It could even lead to them being executed. It could lead to them being
Go into way
brainwashed.
too much detail about. I'm trying to keep the
Well, it's
details slim about a story, dude. Anywho,
Anywho,
That's,
I like it so far. I
Yeah, I
still
don't
need to
dislike
finish it
it.
myself, and I might even give like a bigger review whenever I finish it as to the overall and how the story goes. But that's until then. I'll probably go back home and play some more of this tonight myself before passing out.
yeah, I mean, and this is pretty. I'm only like an hour and a half farther into this, and as I was just saying, there's certain things that I'm interacting with during this that I hadn't even interacted with during my main playthrough yet.
Yeah,
And so I don't know why that is, but I guess it's just
It
making
depen-
slightly different decisions than I was in my main playthrough.
well, also I will say, like, this, what you're seeing right there and what you saw up on that hill, that was gonna happen no matter what.
Right, yeah, I understand that. But anywho, yeah, I think it's worth it giving it a shot. It's kind of a weird game that I think
It's a
has
very,
a
it's
lot
a
of
very
different
chill
things.
game. It's a game that
Yeah,
if
it's
you're
not
not,
weird.
if you're wanting a break from any like hardcore game thing that you've been playing, or just something to pass the time, something that's at least fun, has good music, has good story, something just to play on your free time is what I would recommend. I would recommend this game for anybody that's just looking for a nice game.
Yeah, it's relaxing, not something to stress out over.
Like, even though the combat could get a little bit difficult at times, I don't think I've had
And even then, I've kind of just ignored the combat a lot. Like you've seen, like even as I was battling there, I just let them get down into the red and just let them kick. Like I was never shielding, and I very much so have not really shielded the entire game. So
You're gonna have to start. I'll tell you.
whatever.
Next combat.
Sure, whatever you say.
Next couple of those combats, like from where I'm at in the story, the combat gets a little bit harder.
Sure, whatever.
And some of the enemies do get faster, and shielding is a very important part in defeating them.
Okay.
But overall, good game.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about it whenever we both finish it, I guess.
Fair enough. All right. Thanks, Ruben.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Brian.
Mm-hmm.